On this episode, we visit the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District. Then we meet a bicycle lobbyist at the California State Capitol. We talk with the president of the California Bicycle Coalition in Davis. Davis is the first League of American Bicyclists Platinum level city. Finally, we learn about the Non-motorized transportation pilot project in Marin County. Stay tuned. We're talking with Chris Morphus with the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District. What is the district?
John, good morning. The Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District is one of more than 30 local air districts in California. We are really the face of air quality in California, interacting with thousands of businesses and individuals as we implement federal and state air quality laws and policies.
How are the districts run? Are they part of the state government, local government? What are they?
What makes the California situation quite interesting is that we are districts independent of the state government. We're in fact special districts. Our boards of directors consist of local elected officials who are obviously then mayors or council members from the cities within Sacramento County. But we operate independently of the state government. So it gives us quite a bit of leeway to pursue public policies we think are in the best interest of Californians in terms of protecting air quality, or in the case of you're interested in advancing policies that can improve walking or bicycling in California.
What would be the connection between promoting more walking and bicycling and improving air quality? Why would that be important to you?
The grand strategy, John, is probably to shift some of these short auto trips towards walking and bicycling. We know that roughly upwards of half of all personal automobile trips are less than 3 miles in length. And our aim as an air district is to create environments and do the marketing such so that we can shift some of those short auto trips to walking and bicycling. We're doing that in collaboration with our progressive regional metropolitan planning organization in promoting something that's called the Sacramento Blueprint. It is the cooperative effort of all the local governments and in private sector interest in the Sacramento region to help plan for this region's future growth. We are one of those regions in California that is expecting, in fact we know, that we're going to see very significant population growth in the coming decades. So we face a fundamental choice. Do we continue to sprawl out to the Netherlands of the region and encourage these 30, 40, 50 mile commutes, or do we build for density, increased density that's going to make walking and bicycling more attractive to people, more possible for people?
Now, what are some of the tools you use that could be used to promote walking and biking?
One of our key statutory tools is that we are able to apply the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, as we analyze hundreds of proposed development or transportation projects that come through the pipeline each year. We look at proposed developments, whether for business buildings, strip malls, housing developments, etc. And we provide technical analysis that describes the air quality impacts of this proposed development. And we're under law, we're able to ask of these developers for mitigation. Often the mitigation we request are the kinds of facilities that would make it easier for people to access these projects by walking or bicycling. So we have statutory power that enables us to get sidewalks where none was planned, bike parking, etc.
And what are some of the other things you can do?
Well, our air district, we're very blessed to have a progressive agency director, Larry Green, who's a strong believer in walking and bicycling. Larry sits on the board of directors for Walk Sacramento. He and I and several others from the district recently participated in a 3-day bike ride this weekend out in Napa Valley. So we're lucky to have Larry's progressive leadership. And so Larry is always talking the talk and walking the walk. And so there's that leadership factor. We are supportive of nonprofit partners in the area, such as Breathe California, as well as the Sacramento Area Bicycle Advocates and Walk Sacramento. We have vigorous partnerships with these organizations. Also, I'm the legislative liaison for the air district. So as we stand here today in Sacramento's beautiful Capitol Park, really one of the best urban walks in California, we're able to chime in at the legislature, working on different laws, policies, etc., testifying on behalf of pro-walking or pro-bicycling legislation, even drawing it up. And of course, across the street, we've got our friends at the California Department of Transportation, and I've got a pretty long leash to go over to Caltrans and encourage them to do the right thing as far as making sure that people who walk or bicycle are considered in all the transportation projects they put forth. We've really got a very strong complete streets agenda here at the Air District.
And you mentioned complete streets. For someone that has never heard that term, just what does that mean?
You know, for years, people advocating for walking and bicycling have had to lobby on every single project that, we need sidewalks, we need bike lanes, and we need, safe places for people to walk and bicycle. The Complete Streets turns that around, and Complete Streets is the idea that every transportation facility needs to be designed, built in a way so that people can walk, bicycle, use transit when it's appropriate. Of course, people who are differently abled need to be able to access the transportation facilities, the transportation system. So instead of Complete Streets turns it around. Instead of having to tell people why we should be accommodated in these projects, Complete Streets creates the default position that we are going to be accommodated, and it's up to the transportation establishment to tell us why there should be an exception, why we should not be accommodated in a particular case.
And you mentioned quite a number of other organizations. How much of accomplishing things involves collaboration? How important is that all these different organizations and agencies be brought in?
We seem to be doing better with honey than with the proverbial stick. By bringing people together and collaborating, it seems to be working out well here in Sacramento. Now we're blessed. We have leadership not only at the Air District, but at our MPO as well. So there's some agreement there, some fairly high-level agreement about where the future of this region should go. It needs to go in a direction of increased density, more walkability. We've got the head of our MPO talking Complete Streets in the media. That's hopeful. That gives us some hope that the future can be better for those of us who are advocating for walking and bicycling.
Getting down to nuts and bolts on the ground, what's the infrastructure like here in Sacramento? What's bad, what's good?
Well, Sacramento is blessed in being a fairly old city. Of course, it sprang up in the wake of the gold rush in the second half of the 19th century. And the core of the city is surrounded by some very walkable, old-fashioned inner-city suburbs that were all built before World War II. So you've got this area roughly 2 or 3 miles radius within the state capital that is walkable and bikeable. Now surrounding that, you've got some areas that were built after World War II, and those areas are far more challenging for advocates of walking and bicycling. But there's great hope. We are here in the central city actually taking some of these 3-lane one-way streets that are really challenging for bicyclists and create high-speed thoroughfares that are difficult to cross by foot. And we're in fact knocking some of those streets down to 2 lanes with bike lanes on both sides. It's a little bit new and unorthodox, but it seems to be working very, very well. It makes it easier for pedestrians to cross the street because people who seek to drive at 50 miles per hour really find it more difficult to do so. It enables what Dan Burton has always called the prudent driver to dictate what's happening on the street. People like me who like to drive at the speed limit now are in greater control of what happens on these streets. And bicyclists, of course, benefit from these wonderful bike lanes on both the right and the left side. And those left side bike lanes can make it easier to turn left.
We're at the California State Capitol in Sacramento talking with Justin Fanslaw, who's a government relations consultant or a lobbyist. Just what does a lobbyist do?
Well, I represent the California Bicycle Coalition, among other bicycle, pedestrian, and alternative transportation or active transportation organizations. I take their message from their organization to the Capitol, to the legislators, to their staff, to the people that make laws, and hope to give them enough information so that they make the best decisions possible for the people that I represent, meaning bicyclists and pedestrians have better access.
What's the big bike ped legislation going on this year? What have you been working on?
Well, this year what we've been working on for quite some time is the development of what's called the Complete Streets Act. And Complete Streets is a way to affect local planning, meaning how communities are built to address the needs of all users of the road and not just those that choose to drive an automobile. our bill would forever change the hostility that exists for people that walk, bicycle, take public transit because they want to or because they have to.
And some people might think this is mom and apple pie. When you have something that you would think everyone would be for, why would it still take some effort to get to the legislature?
Well, that's a good question. I think the thing that most people forget is that making laws should be difficult. And this process that we're going through means that we have to take a constituency, bicyclists, pedestrians, seniors, public transit users, and mobilize them and make sure that their message is being sent to the 120 legislators that do exist in this Capitol that vote on issues every day. And quite frankly, they vote on thousands and thousands of bills every year. So our issue needs to be as important to them as all the other issues are. And that takes time. It takes a lot of organization. It takes a lot of commitment financially and personally from the folks that want to see these bills passed.
And how does the lobbyist, the person who's up here talking with the staff and the delegates, work with the grassroots out there, all those bicyclists and walkers
Sure.
that will write a letter if they just know what to write a letter about?
Sure. Well, specifically working with bicyclists, it's important to be a bicyclist, and I am a bicyclist. That makes it a little bit easier because I know how to access bicyclists. The best way to access bicyclists is to get on your bicycle and go out. That community of people recognize the work and effort and the danger that we face on the road together. So there's a camaraderie out there that exists just by simply being on a bicycle. The other part is just basic, simple grassroots mobilization. Obviously, the internet and email is a wonderful tool that we utilize. Given our limited budgets, connecting with our members through email, everyone has an email address, is a great way to let them know what's happening at the Capitol, what the status of our legislation is, and what steps they need to take, whether it be writing a letter, making a phone call, stopping in the district office to see their representative when their representative is in the district, or coming to the Capitol for our annual lobby day called California Pedal Power that starts every year May 1st during Bike Month.
And as you say, there are thousands of bills. Most of them aren't going to make it. You have a good bill that doesn't make it through the first time. What does it take to pick up the pieces and get going again in the next session?
Well, for me, the pieces are always there. Right now, we're in the first year of a 2-year session, so our Complete Streets bill is now a 2-year bill. So we have the remainder of this calendar year to regroup with our folks and learn from the lessons that were given to us this year. We had great progress on our bill this year. For the first time that it was run, I think we were very proud and enthused by the reaction we got from the Capitol. We have some political problems that we have to deal with, and we have a bigger coalition to build. So we'll just keep fighting. It's not uncommon for a bill to fail the first time it's put out there.
We're in Davis, California, talking with Stephen Vance, who's president of the board of directors of the California Bicycle Coalition. What is the coalition?
Well, the California Bicycle Coalition is a statewide advocacy group representing cyclists in Sacramento, which is, of course, the capital of California.
So what's been going on in Sacramento this year that might affect bicyclists?
There's actually been a lot going on. We've had a very busy legislative season. The big thing we're working on is a Complete Streets bill, known here as AB 1358, that's going to change the way cities and counties do their general planning as it relates to transportation and accommodating bicyclists and pedestrians.
Just what are complete streets, and why would that be important for bikes and peds?
Well, the concept of complete streets is that the street isn't really built the way it should be unless it's serving everybody, not just motorists, but bicyclists, pedestrians, seniors, kids. And so what we're trying to do is create legislation that will require, when cities and counties update their general plans and do new what's called a circulation element here in California, that they have to consider the needs of bicyclists and pedestrians and accommodate them in their plans.
And the assembly just went home. How far were you able to get this time around?
We got very close to actually passing this bill through the Assembly. This was its first session, and it was introduced on our behalf by Assembly Member Mark Leno from San Francisco. So it went all the way through the Assembly, and then it got to the Senate side of the legislature and made it all the way through committees, and at the very last minute we got it out of the last Senate committee. So it's on the Senate floor, and then the legislature is going to adjourn until January, so now we have to wait until they come back to wrap it up and get the thing passed and onto the governor's desk.
And even without this legislation, what are you able to do with California DOT? Are you able to accomplish anything, without law forcing them to do stuff?
Well, the other thing that we're doing as being the voice of bicyclists in California is we're in Sacramento, where the Department of Transportation, or Caltrans as we call it, resides. And so we've been very effective this year at getting the attention of the upper hierarchy within Caltrans and gaining their respect, so that they're now coming to us, asking us, what is it that they need to do to be more responsive to bicyclists and pedestrians. So we recently, a couple months ago, had a meeting with Will Kempton, who's the director of Caltrans, brought in advocates from around the state for a face-to-face meeting to talk to him about bicycling, and that has led to planned upcoming meetings with others within the Caltrans bureaucracy, and we'll be coming back to meet with him later on in the year as well. So getting an ongoing dialogue with the head of the Department of Transportation, we think is a great thing for bicyclists, and it's going to mean things are going to get better in the future because we have this direct dialogue going on.
So what brought you to Davis this week?
Well, we're here this week because we're having our biennial Walk Bike California conference, and this year we're very fortunate that it's being held in conjunction with the Association of Pedestrian and Bicyclist Professional Development Seminar. So they meet every other year as well, and so they're here. And it's a conference of bike advocates, bike professionals, consultants, anybody who has an interest in bicycling and walking, to talk about engineering issues, policy issues, bike cultural issues. And we're here in Davis, which is, kind of the mecca for bicyclists in California. This is where it's the way we'd all like to see it. This is the only platinum League of American Bicyclists, bicycle-friendly city in the country, and so this is just a great venue for this conference.
What are people going to take home with them when they go home from a conference like this?
Well, it's going to be different for different people. Consultants come and they get to share information and kind of give out what they're doing, and so that people are more aware of what kind of services are available. Advocates get to share information amongst each other and learn about how groups in, whether it's San Diego or San Francisco or San Luis Obispo, are doing what they're doing. And then government agency folks like me, I work for a government agency as well, come to learn about what the state of the art is in bikeway design, pedestrian safety planning, all those sorts of things.
And you mentioned Davis, the only platinum city so far in the U.S. What would it take to get every city in California to be like Davis, some year in the future? Well,
that would be a huge task. One of the things that Davis has going for it is that it is a small, compact community that is, in and of itself, it accommodates bicycling just because everything is close together. It's a flat terrain. It's a pretty nice climate generally. But throughout the state of California, you have a lot of different kinds of communities, much more suburban, much more spread out, places where maybe over the years bicyclists have not been considered when roads were built, and so there's a huge infrastructure need throughout the state. There's a huge education need throughout the state to educate local governments, educate bicyclists, educate city staff about how to accommodate bicyclists and how to better serve them in their cities.
And people talk a lot about infrastructure sometimes and forget about that education aspect. What can you do in the way of education? I mean, you bring people to conferences like this, but
right.
But how about the new generation coming up? Children. What can we teach them?
Right. Well, one of the key things to getting more people on bikes is to educate them on how to properly operate their bikes, And so we've been fortunate at the CBC to work with the Department of Health Services here in California, which has grant money to do what they're calling the Healthy Transportation Network. And our part of that is that we are using some of that grant money to train trainers to go out into the community and teach people about safe bicycling. So we've been sponsoring people to attend certification training under the League of American Bicyclists cycling instructor program. And so over the last year or two, we've been training a lot of people. We've also been taking our education program to employers, talking to them about how they can better accommodate bicyclists at their workplace, and at the same time talking to their employees so that we can encourage them to ride to work and that sort of thing. So education is a big part of what needs to be done, and we're really fortunate to be able to work with the Department of Health Services on that project.
We're in Davis, California, talking with Andy Clark, who's Executive Director of the League of American Bicyclists. What is the League?
The League is a 127-year-old membership organization of bicyclists, and our mission from 1880 onwards has been to promote and protect the rights of cyclists.
What's special about Davis?
Davis is the closest thing we have in the U.S. to a European-style city for cycling. When you think of Amsterdam or Copenhagen or cities with really high levels of bike use, Davis is one of the very few that really gets close to that. Almost 1 in 5 trips here are made by bike, and there's a very definite culture and feel that is different about Davis when you arrive in the city. When you come onto campus, the city's logo itself is a bicycle. So it's a great place for a conference about cycling and for bicycle planners and engineers the world over come to Davis to see what the city's done. So it's a pretty special place.
And how has the League rewarded Davis for that status?
Well, we have a program, a recognition program for cities that have done good things for cycling, and we grade cities that apply and give them awards, bronze through platinum, depending on their qualities. And Davis is the only city so far that we've given the platinum designation to in 5 years of the program. So the experts that we have reviewing those applications, the people that comment on it, really feel as if Davis is the best city for cycling in the U.S. And for the last 30 years it's really built itself around cycling, and it really works as a means of travel, and it's a great city to ride in.
And one of your cities that only made the gold level, didn't make platinum, what makes Davis different that they could try to do in their own city to get them up to that higher level?
Yeah, well, Davis, I mean, you notice as you ride around or even as you walk around that every major street has got a bike lane or a path alongside it for cyclists, sometimes both. There's a lot of streets that have got the option of either riding off on a trail or riding on the street in a bike lane. And so the network is very, very complete, and there are, I think, 30 undercrossings or overcrossings for cyclists of streets and the interstate and the train tracks and so forth. So it's really a very convenient, quick and safe environment for cyclists, and consequently people do it in droves. And it's amazing to come from somewhere that is totally not like this to see, as I did yesterday when schools let out, elementary age school kids riding home together without a parent in sight, not worried about traffic because they've got a great network to ride on, and the school parking lots are just chock-a-block with bikes, and it's just a very different feel, and it's something that's been done very deliberately and is a choice that the city's made over the years as it's grown to accommodate cyclists in this way, and it really shows, and it's really a great place to come and see.
We're in San Rafael, California, talking with Deb Hubsmith, who's the Advocacy Director for the Marin County Bicycle Coalition. What is the coalition?
The Marin County Bicycle Coalition is a membership-based organization that's working to promote safe bicycling for everyday transportation and recreation. We've been around for about 10 years.
What is the non-motorized transportation pilot project, and how does that relate to the coalition?
Well, that's a good question, John. The Non-motorized transportation pilot project is Section 1807 of the Federal Transportation Bill, SAFE TLU, and the Marin County Bicycle Coalition, along with another nonprofit here in Marin, managed by Patrick Seidler of Transportation Alternatives for Marin, we worked together for 5.5 years and worked with the Rails to Trails Conservancy as well, and Congressman Oberstar to get this in the Federal Transportation Bill. And what it does is it provides $25 million apiece to 4 different communities: Marin County, California, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Sheboygan County, Wisconsin, and Columbia, Missouri, to build out a bicycle and pedestrian network and to analyze the results in terms of how that affects mode share, safety, greenhouse gas emissions, health, and other implications, including how people access transit.
Where did the idea for the program come from?
The idea for the pilot program came from international best practices, just like Safe Routes to School. Patrick Seidler, who runs a bike company, WTB, had established an office in the Netherlands. And in the Netherlands, about 50% of trips are made by walking and biking. And he found out that the way that they were able to get there and sustain that number was through creating a pilot program in the 1980s in the city of Delft. I've been there and it's truly amazing. Within the city itself, they have 50% of trips by bike, and they were upset because they're only the 4th highest city now in the Netherlands that has a bicycle population. So based on those results and the fact that other countries like the Netherlands and Denmark and Japan did similar pilot programs that worked, we brought the case to Congressman Oberstar, indicated that the Safe Routes to School pilots worked, and urged him to do this because here in the United States we really don't have complete bicycle and pedestrian networks, except for in places like Davis, California, that a lot of people write off by saying, oh, that's California, and oh, that's a college town that's totally flat. And so the idea was to transform communities that had issues and problems and then see how bicycling can represent a significant portion of the transportation load, as well as pedestrians.
Now, the pilot project evaluation is going to be an important part of this. What will they be looking at when they evaluate the success of this, or trying to see what works and what doesn't work?
Well, there's a very serious evaluation effort underway, and every 2 weeks the 4 pilot communities meet together with the Federal Highway Administration, Rails to Trails Conservancy, and the Volpe Institute. And we are working with the University of Minnesota on evaluation techniques. There were initial numbers that were taken through a survey, a telephone survey, and a postcard survey in the fall of 2006. And then final numbers will come out again in the fall of 2010. And they're taking a look at people's trips that are 10 minutes or more for walking and bicycling, how they get there, what the purpose of the trips are. And then we're also taking a look at 5 new projects that get constructed and the type of people that use those projects. We're doing on-the-ground counts. We just did those in 2007, and we'll be doing those again in 2010. And there are 2 reports that are being prepared for Congress. One is going to be coming out probably in October of 2007, and the other one will come out, the final one, in 2011. The startling thing from the initial surveys were that here in Marin County, 15% of trips are already made by walking and biking. In Minneapolis, it was close to 27%. So that shows that already there's a substantial number of people who are walking and biking. As a comparison, here in Marin, only about 4% of trips are made by public transit. So we're aiming for this program to show that walking and biking are the most cost-effective ways of helping to increase mobility across the United States. With 41% of trips in the U.S. being 2 miles or less, these are the kind of trips that we can use to get more people walking and biking.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.